Welcome, one and all, to episode 446 of Scotch and Smoke Rings. I am your friendly neighborhood Oxhorn here as always. Well, not as always, but here, this time with my suspenders hidden under my sweater and not on maximum stun. But that's just because it's another cold day in Seattle. I'll be really excited when all this cold goes away. Got a great show for you today, but it's going to be shorter than usual. So just a heads up, I'm expecting this show to go about 30 minutes, and no game today. And that's because, as many of you know, I'm doing a big week-long series dedicated to the Lonesome Road DLC of Fallout New Vegas. I've done 3 episodes so far. Episode 1 was over 40 minutes long. Episode 2 was over 50 minutes long. Episode 3 was almost an hour and 20 minutes long. It takes its toll. So, I need to get to work on tomorrow's episode, and I haven't done anything yet. And that's because I woke up just a few moments ago. I was working on the first episode, and it bleeded into a little bit of the next day. I figured, well, I'll catch up the next day. And then the next day, work bled into even more of the next day, and I figured, well, I'll just catch up the next day. But no, the next day, work bled all through the night, so I slept all day. I'll figure it out. Don't worry, there will be a video tomorrow, but I need to take a shorter show today. So, Jericho says we see a very peaceful man who's also very dead. That's right, we did. That was in today's video, wasn't it? I hope you all are enjoying this series. I am having a whole lot of fun putting it together. Lonesome Road is such an amazing DLC, and it's so moody. The thing that's challenging about it from my perspective is it's so messy, which is a testament to the level designers. Pardon me, I mean, because that's the whole point of the Divide, is trying to make it look like all of this devastation has happened and things are found in a ramshackle sort of way. So you've got all of these ruined structures, piles and piles of rubble, paths that are made from fallen antennas and concrete walls. And it's kind of tricky to make that make sense. It's one thing to navigate it. That's a challenge in and of itself. It's another to navigate it and then do a point-by-point narration. Turning left from the rock pile, we explore another rock pile. It gets a little tricky. So I'm doing my best. But we're having a whole lot of fun. The Divide is the best DLC, says Solid. It is amazing. I don't know if it's the best, but it's way up there. Okay, I'm gonna move. There we go. Now I'm in my Stream Questions channel for Discord. Don't worry, Discord folks, I will not forget you. Leanna says, you look a little tired, I was about to say. Well, thanks. Yeah, I do look a little tired. But I'll wake up. I always do. My favorite Muppet is back, says Best Gold. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Brad says, hey, just wanted to say that your videos and streams keep me interested in coming back to the Fallout universe. Well, I'm glad to hear it, because I come back to the Fallout universe because it is interesting as well. I'm glad I can help keep the interest. Jamin says, is it just me or is Ulysses a pretentious blowhard? And Jesse says, hope all that work didn't cut into your Valentine's Day. Well, no, I celebrated Valentine's Day early last week on Saturday, which is why I took a day off from making videos. If you recall, last week I took an extra day off, and that's because I had celebrated my our family's Valentine's Day on Saturday. Yeah, so Ulysses is an interesting nut. He's not what I expected him to be, and the more you listen to him, the more you realize that he's a little off. And I don't want to do any spoilers, considering we're only 3 episodes into this series. But by the time you meet him, I mean, he accuses you of forgetting. We heard that in today's episode. But he has forgotten everything that he said in his own holotapes as well. We have to remind him of some of what he said. And it's hard for me to talk because we're only 3 episodes in, and I don't want to give away any spoilers, but I would say that I think the issue with Ulysses is that he's so traumatized by all of the things that have happened in his life that he doesn't know how to handle it, and he handles it in the wrong way. That's where I think. Maybe it deserves a separate video. I don't know. Maybe I should do a big character profile on Ulysses. Maybe, if I have time. We gotta set this on fire. Come on. What are you doing, Oxhorn? You're wasting time. All right. The Elvis man says, Oxhorn, dye your beard, it's turning gray. Yeah. I saw a video of myself from a couple of years ago, and my beard was still a nice golden brown texture like sun. But now not so much. I blame this channel. I'm kidding. I don't blame the channel. I don't know. I'm a husband and a father of 2, and I do this channel full time. It's a lot, but I don't think that's why. I think it's just because I'm aging. I think it's probably natural. People tend to go gray as they age, right? Dawson says, I have watched all of your videos on your channel, and I always agree with your moral decisions. In your videos, it's nice to find someone who has the exact same ethics. Well, thank you, Dawson. I really appreciate that. But for every fellow like you who appreciates my take on the world, there's 50 others that don't. And they're very loud. So I enjoyed doing my videos on morality and ethics in the games. I really do, so I'm not going to be stopping. But I tend to focus on just the stories in the games themselves these days, because that's what people really enjoy watching. Crypto Seb says, hello again, Oxhorn. Love your content as always. I hope you remember me. Take my Bitcoin. Oh, I remember you, Crypto Seb. You're the only one who's trying to get rid of all of your Bitcoin and giving it to me. But that's okay. I'll take it. Even though it has crashed recently, and I no longer regret not investing in it, I'll still take it. Alex says, I wish you used sweets rather than Maybell in your lore more. I understand. The thing is that I've done everything with sweets. Everything. I've discovered every location. I've completed every single quest. I've looted every box, every locker, unlocked every safe, read every terminal. I've done everything with sweets. So it's hard to film a lore video with a character who's already consumed all that lore, which is why I made my other characters to begin with. So, yeah, I've got Oxhorn and Maybell, so that I can explore some of the lore that I've already explored with Sweets from a different perspective. And then now Haley. So that's why you don't see Sweets quite as much in my lore videos. But you see her much more often during my mod and settlement videos, because I do all of my settlement building on that character, and she's really the only one I use mods for that often. Quick question, please answer. Fallout 3 or New Vegas? That's an impossible question to answer. They have such different feels, and this is something I was thinking about yesterday. I really appreciate the fact that Bethesda respected the lore that Interplay and Black Isle and then Obsidian had established on the West Coast so much that they left it alone. Isn't that nice? Think about it. What if Fallout 3 took place in California? Or in New Mexico, or really close to the West Coast? They would be creating a story right alongside all of these things that had been established. They'd have to deal with Denver and, how Legion had taken over there, and the Hounds and the Cyberdogs. They'd have all these things they'd have to deal with, and they could have very easily ruined it or messed it all up. And instead, they chose to go to the complete opposite side of the continent to tell their story. Which I think was brilliant on their part, because it gave them the freedom to tell a story in a place where that story had never been told before, allowing it's almost a completely different world. And it might as well be, because in the Fallout universe it's really hard to do intercontinental transportation. Though it is possible, if Harold, stuff like that. But it's one of those things where they're so completely different. The world of New Vegas is so mystical, for lack of a better word. It's one of those things where everything that happens it's so creative and unique, and it almost gives you this legendary, mystical feel. Whereas the world of Fallout 3 is very in the now. It's very everyday survival. Point A to point B. Today's meal. Today's survival. A bed to sleep in today. It's immediate. You're dealing with the everyday struggles of just these normal people in this wasteland. Whereas with New Vegas, the focus is more on empires and legendary stories. Now, the same is true for Fallout 3. You do have big epic stories of factions and all of that, but all of the side quests are really related to these little small things going on, where many of the small quests for New Vegas still have something related to do with one of these major factions. So they're just very different. I can't choose which one I like better, because they're so different, and they're so great by themselves. All right, lots of tips. Thank you, everybody, for the tips. It's hard for me to get through them all. Cyber Optic says, "Hey, Ox, which is better, Patreon or sponsor on YouTube?" I don't know. I keep getting a message from YouTube to enable sponsorships. Who's calling me from the Bristol Township in Pennsylvania? I don't know anyone in Pennsylvania. Doggone it. Spammers. What was I saying? I get distracted very easily. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, that's right. Well, I keep getting pestered by YouTube to enable sponsorships on YouTube. And then I pressed a button, but I don't know how sponsorships on YouTube work. So I don't get any messages when someone sponsors me on YouTube. I'm not sure what's going on there. With Patreon, it's very clear and easy for me to understand. So I prefer Patreon, but if you want to sponsor me on YouTube, go for it. I mean, that's great. I really appreciate it. Cody says, "I've been holding out on my Lonesome Road playthrough, waiting for the famous Oxhorn walkthrough. So in your best opinion, is Ulysses truly a madman?" I don't think he's mad. He's damaged. He's not crazy. He's not insane. But he is so damaged by the things that have happened in his life that it causes his mind to go down a twisted path of logic. It's logical in his head, but it brings him to conclusions that don't make sense in the real world, and he has to conveniently ignore a lot of other realities that are all the way around him to come up with the conclusions that he has, and part of that comes from his own grief. He wants to believe the way he does because he's so grief-stricken by what's happened to him. He's trying to make sense of it all. So I don't think he's crazy. I just think he's very damaged. Ooh, they flew off the... was in the middle of reading that one and it flew off the screen. Jamin says, how do you go about using mods on one character and not on another? Well, if it's a weapon mod, I don't use that weapon on that character. An armor mod, I don't use that armor on that character. If it's a cosmetic mod, I don't use that hairstyle or something on that character. That's really... Jay says, without spoiling the story, what do you think about how Ulysses spoke? He has a very slow and monotone voice that puts you to sleep. Lastly, about every other sentence was full of riddles, analogies, and cryptic messages. Yeah, that's part of the thing that's a little bit annoying about listening to him, is he's not very straight with you. He's just, and that can come across as being really full of yourself. If you're so full of yourself that you can't deign to answer someone straightforward, you got to speak in riddles because you're so smart, and well, maybe you can figure it out. Part of this is Obsidian trying to make the gameplay interesting, and so that's part of his character, and they don't want to give it all away at the very beginning. And the other part of it can be explained with lore, and we don't have to necessarily say that he's really full of himself. Instead, there are a number of explanations, the first being that he is a tribal, and it's quite possible that English isn't his native language, and he's used to expressing himself in a very different way. It could be that he and his tribe, that their tribe expressed themselves in riddles or cryptically, and maybe that was, maybe that was part of how they just communicated. Or it could be that, as I said earlier, he's a damaged person, and that's just a manifestation of some of the damage he's sustained. All right, but yeah, a lot of those comments from those who have tipped have flown way off the screen, and I can't track them down now, so thank you very much for the tips, and sorry if I didn't read your comment. Mark Lar says, hey, did you know about the frozen Han Solo Easter egg? And it flew off. Easter egg on top of the structure in the Disciples base in Nuka World. No, I did not know about that. I will have to check it out. Sounds interesting. What are you going to do when you finish Lonesome Road or New Vegas? Asks Jaboy. Well, that's so far off that I'm not really worried about it now. Lonesome Road is not. When I finish Lonesome Road, I'm going to do what I always do, produce another month worth of content, and then do another big DLC series, probably on Mothership Zeta. But I've still got to tell the full story of Fallout New Vegas. I still have to finish telling all of the side locations of Fallout New Vegas, and all of the characters of Fallout New Vegas. So there's a lot of New Vegas content left to do. Not to mention all the while I'm still doing content on Fallout 4 and Fallout 3. 218 Productions says, what advice would you give to someone who wants to start on YouTube? Here's a tip. Love the vids. Well, the advice I would give, well, it's tricky because the advice is going to be changing over the course of your career. When you first start out, the major thing you're going to have to fight is fatigue and disappointment because no one's watching your content. That's the toughest bit. When you're first starting out, you pour your heart and soul into a video and it gets 13 views. Tragic, right? At that early stage, your only options are to either give up or keep going. And it's going to seem like madness to keep going because no one's watching your content. You produce this huge piece of content. And you can't redo it because if you do, you're sabotaging your channel. You have to do something new every single time. So you're constantly trying to be creative, and especially if you're trying to publish every single day, which I recommend. One of the only ways to really build a channel, especially early on, is to just produce a huge backlog of content. And the best way to do that is to publish every single day. But the more you publish, the more consistently you publish, the more likely that you are to be noticed. I can tell you, when it came to my channel, I was publishing a piece of content every single day for 6,000 subscribers for months and months and months. Wasn't making any money, but for many months, probably 4 or 5 months, I published a new video every single day. This was back when I was doing 7 videos a week. I now only do 6. But back when I was doing 7 videos a week, I was pumping out a brand new Fallout 4 video every single day, and I only had 6,000 subscribers, and it was slowly growing. I think from when I started to about 5 months later, I had grown from 6,000 to maybe 14 or 15,000. And then I produced one video that really caught people's attention. Actually, it was a couple of videos where I got really lucky. I published my video on all of the cars of Fallout 4, and the full story of the Pulowski Preservation Shelter, and the crashed flights of Fallout 4. I published those 3 videos within a short window of each other, and for some reason, people really enjoyed those videos. That bumped me up to start getting multiple thousands of subscribers a day. And from then on, my channel was growing really well. So it's a matter of continually producing that content, giving your viewers a bunch of content to watch after they subscribe to you, so that, you know, you're fooling yourself if you're expecting to sit down and make one amazing piece of content, publish it, and then just wait. I'm going to wait until they notice me. When they finally discover how amazing I am, I will then sit down and produce more content. No, you can't have that attitude. You got to keep giving them the content. Then they subscribe to you. Then they've got all this wonderful content of yours to watch, going back months or years or whatever, and you will get your money out of it eventually. It just takes some time. Then after that, after you're starting to get subscribers and people are watching your content, it's really tempting to make your channel all about yourself. It is. And so many YouTubers do this. They'll want to start up drama, or they'll have a video every other day talking about the future of their channel or what they're dealing with. And it's really tempting to make it about yourself, but my recommendation would be to not. Just focus on the point. And the point is whatever game you're interested in, whatever topic you're passionate about. The thing that made people subscribe to you to begin with is not you. It's not just your story. I mean, they may be interested in that a little bit, but they're not really interested in you. They're interested in the game, and in maybe your unique telling of it, or your unique perspective of it. So resist the idea of making it all about you and injecting yourself into every single video. Those are some of the mistakes I made early on in my channel. Some of the things that I regret is that some of the videos that I was really passionate about, I put too much of my own bias or philosophy into it, instead of just finding what was in the game and bringing it out. I was putting too much of myself into it, and I always got pushback from viewers on that. And it's because people don't subscribe for me; they subscribe for Fallout, and it's humbling to realize that. But it's also important to realize that. If you can realize that, and you can make it less about yourself and more about the content, you're going to be doing better. Great. After all of that, did I crash? From my perspective, my stream is... Oh, I'm getting a few chops here and there. Okay. I'm at 3077 kilobytes per second. 284, 271. Okay, I'm solid green right now. Oh! Just got a big red and yellow spike. Alright, let me see if I can figure something out. Sorry about this. Please groom your beard? What? Okay, alright. Yeah, I can do that. Next week, I'll be sure to comb it before I get in front of a camera. You're lagging bad. Now the audio's out of sync? Oh, man. I'm not doing anything differently. Okay, I'm watching my stream right now. And it's looking okay to me. Although I really should turn off this autofocus, shouldn't I? See if we can do that. Properties. There, autofocus is off. Well, sorry about that. Don't know what to tell you. I need to switch to a better internet service provider, I suppose. Okay, I'm gonna... Okay, I restarted the stream, and I have a solid green on my end, so hopefully it works. Oxhorn, you had me at Ruffle Mouse, says Jerry. Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. We're good now, says Amadrius. Better, good. Nice, fixed. Yeah, better. Okay, you're good now. All right. Yeah, that was weird. Don't know what happened. Just a glitch in the Matrix, I guess. TC Nick says, what do you think about the Metro Exodus trailer? I am, of course, thrilled by it and excited and extremely hopeful. I don't know what to expect. It could be that... Here's the thing. I've enjoyed the linear gameplay of the Metro series, but I prefer open worlds, as you know. So I'm hoping that Metro Exodus will have a more open world feel. Now, I don't know if that's possible. We'll see. But I would love it if Metro Exodus was less linear and more open. That's what I'm hoping for. Big tip from Rom. Thank you, Rom. Says, I've played New Vegas a million times. Somehow the presentation in your videos still makes it intensely interesting to me. Needless to say, you're doing a great job. Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I try to make it interesting. Oh my jelly rolls says, does Ox ever answer the Twitch chat I normally watch on YouTube? Yes, I do. But, you know, the Twitch comment does compete with all of the YouTube comments, so that makes everyone equal. Everyone's comment is just as likely to be answered or missed as everyone else's. Two Gun Toast says, will you please say, you're out of your jurisdiction, Sheriff, in your best John Wayne voice? I know it's weird, but please. You're out of your jurisdiction, Sheriff. I can't do voices. I can't do John Wayne. How do you do John Wayne? Devin says, have you ever played the Stalker games? Yes, I tried to, and I had a very hard time with it. On one of my Sundays, one of my days off, I downloaded and installed Stalker 1, 2, and 3, and tried all three of them, and they just... I couldn't get into them. But I should probably try again. Will you do a big loot video at the end of Lonesome Road? Says Raydag. Yeah, I will. Barticus says, to do John Rain, you need to drawl, son. Drag out those syllables. Howdy, Sheriff. You're out of your jurisdiction. Stalker is moddable. Okay. Maybe there are mods that fix it. I played just the base of vanilla Stalker, and there were a lot of weird issues. Will you do a video about the EXO-1 sets in the Commonwealth? I have already done so. Well, okay, so I did a video on where to find all of the EXO-1 sets in Nuka World. Then I did a video on the lore friendliness of EXO-1. And then I did a video on Hub 360. Wait. No, it wasn't Hub 360. It was 360 place. Court 35 is what it was. Court 35. If you're interested in EXO-1 armor, watch my video on Court 35. Cole says, have you ever considered professional voice acting? No. I'm up for it, but I don't think it would pay very well. Jamin says, while the Fallout games are set in progressively later time periods, what would you think of one in which we get to explore the wasteland only shortly after the bombs dropped? That would be really interesting. Really interesting. Now, they'd still need a way to push you into the future, I think. What I would love to do in a situation like that is you have a character, and I've been thinking about if I were to make a Fallout game, what plot would I do? And I've thrown around a couple of ideas. But one of them was you survive the apocalypse, but you turn into a ghoul. And so you spend the first part of the game trying to survive the world just after it was, right after the bombs dropped, but you become a ghoul. But because you're a ghoul, you can live for 200 years or however long. And so then you sustain some sort of injury, not necessarily a brain injury or whatever. Maybe you're cryogenically frozen, or maybe your brain is taken out and placed in a jar. Oh wait, all of these things have been done already, haven't they? Anyway, some way you are rendered unconscious and you wake up not knowing who you are in the year 2297. That way you can still see some of the people that we are used to in the Fallout universe. And who knows, maybe somebody can come up with a cure for ghouls. So, after all of these years, you get a cure for being a ghoul. You're now in the year 2297. You're no longer a ghoul. And yet you have all of these flashbacks to moments before the bombs dropped and then right after. Interesting idea. It would be fun. Oxhorn, what's your favorite faction in Fallout New Vegas? That's really a broad question, because you need to specify favorite in what way. Okay, which is my favorite faction if I think that they're just really nice people? Oh, that would be the Followers of the Apocalypse. Okay, who's my favorite faction in terms of best hope for rebuilding civilization? Probably the NCR. Okay, what's my favorite faction for the health of Vegas itself? Probably yes, ma'am. I mean, there are a number of ways to go about that, so it just depends on the way you think about it. Like, what's the goal of your question? I can say that I don't see very much redeemable about Caesar's Legion. I understand their point, and I disagree with it. And I think Ulysses was correct when he says that the Legion is just like a raging fire. All it can do is consume. And it will consume and consume and consume until it gets to the coast. And then all it has left to consume is to turn back and consume itself. Nations that start the way that Caesar's legions start always end the way nations like that end. And that's by splintering and becoming fractionalized and then warring against each other. And they don't provide stability. They just consume and burn and destroy until they destroy themselves. And then House, he doesn't care for anyone outside himself. The only reason Vegas is being protected by his robots is because he's in it. That's it. So he's not a very good one either. I tried the Courier's Mile. It didn't end well, sadly. Any advice for a melee unarmed build? Absolutely not. I think I've made it clear in many of my previous videos that I'm bad at melee and unarmed builds. They're just so tricky. I don't know how you'll do the Courier's Mile without being able to kill these enemies from afar. The biggest issue, not to give away too many spoilers, but the biggest issue is that you are fighting marked men who can regenerate by being close to radiation. Well, the Courier's Mile is the epicenter of huge amount of radiation, so they're constantly healing themselves. That's the tricky bit. So you need to deal a great deal of damage all at once without them being able to heal themselves. And as a melee build, I don't know how that's even possible. Pink and Marie says, I hope you see this. It would be awesome if you see this. Me and my flatmate have been watching your vids for a long time and think you are legendary. We want you to know how much of an inspiration you are. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Glad you're watching. Elder Jackson says, Oxhorn, did you find all the locations where Ulysses is watching you? No, I didn't. I missed them all my first playthrough, but upon doing my research for this series, I found that he does appear. So I went back. So, for example, in today's episode, when we went to the high road, there was that moment when we paused and we saw someone looking at us through a window in a ruined skyscraper. I had to go back and re-record that just to show that off in the video. So I'm not sure where the others are. I'm going to have to do some research. Cameron says, what's your favorite minor faction? Atom Cats. I think the Atom Cats are pretty great. I mean, Poetry Nights about power armor? How can you beat that? Blackbird says, what are you smoking tonight? I'm smoking an Oliva. Oh, and then his comment just fell off the screen. Today I'm smoking a La Aurora y Leon Corojo. Syke says, is there any info about Ada from Automatron besides her own quest? No, there isn't. It's really frustrating. One of the frustrating things about the companions that you get with the DLCs for Fallout 4 is that Bethesda didn't put anything about them outside their own little DLC adventures. So with the other companions, they have things to say. upon going to many of the different locations in the game. They also have things to say when they see each other. When you dismiss a companion with another companion nearby, they'll sometimes talk to each other. None of the 3 DLC companions do. None of the other companions talk about them. They don't talk to any of the other companions. And they have a lot less to say when you just take them throughout the Commonwealth. So they're a little frustrating in that regard. It would be fun to run with Ada or with Porter Gage or Old Longfellow for your whole gameplay, but it would be a little bit more boring. Oxhorn, what's your least favorite companion throughout the entire Fallout series? Well, I think my least favorite companions are going to be the Fallout 3 companions, just because there wasn't a lot of thought that went into their stories. Really, for all of the companions you get in Fallout 3, there may be one quest associated with them right when you find them, or one location. And then outside of that, they just don't have very strong personalities. It's hard to produce content about them because there isn't much there. Jericho is a prime example. So I'd have to say Jericho is probably my least favorite companion. Follow Jack says, "Hi Ox, I doubt you'll see this, but could you say hi to my Beth? She's my girlfriend and is a big fan of yours." Hello, Beth. Great guy. Nicholas. No. Flew off the screen. What was his name? All your comments flew off the screen. Oh, it's Fallout Jack. That's right. Jack. Great guy. What era is your music playlist? This is big band Dixieland music that we're listening to right now. Jack says, Oxhorn, will you ever do a speculation on what happened to Canada? In Fallout 4, there are tons of references. And like the intro to Fallout 1, the Survivalist and his rifle, and Annabelle in New Vegas. Well, Canada was annexed by the United States. So the United States military went in and forcibly made Canada part of the United States. There were ground troops there trying to pacify the Canadians. It's messed up. When you think about it, it's really messed up. Which may be why they didn't elaborate on it too much. But they haven't elaborated on it too much. Really, Obsidian did the most elaboration on it by talking about the Survivalist and some of his logs. If you want to know more, I think watch my video on the Survivalist from Honest Hearts. I read all of the logs, and on one of his logs he talked about what he did in Canada. He wasn't proud of what he did there. Did you know that Eddie's repairability could be exploited? Says Sir Jack. I did not know that. How? I know that his repairability has a limit. Like, if you pass all of the speech checks, the most that he can repair your weapons and gear is, what, 35%? But I did not know it could be exploited. Alpha Wolf says, what do you think of Lonesome Road? Good or bad? Definitely good. I was a little disappointed to find out that it was so linear, and it is very linear, but it's a great adventure. Really well made. I have a lot of thoughts on Ulysses himself, but we'll have to get to that in a future episode. All right, 2 more questions, and then I need to log off and work on tomorrow's episode. Tiglath. Real Mugwolf says, what did you think about the swamp folk? You never really talked about them. Well, I talked about them in as much as they were talked about in the DLC for Point Lookout. We learned from Kyle a little bit about them. We learned from Marguerite a little bit about them. So they're not so mad and crazy that they can't function. They do have children. Sometimes those children are not mutants, as we saw with Kyle. They engage in commerce. They get moonshine from Marguerite. They go to, what was his name? Hank? The guy in the orange jumpsuit? They go to his shop and buy stuff from him all the time. So they do have their own little civilization. But their horrible mutations have diseased their minds in such a way that they want to kill anyone who looks normal, which of course is why Kyle had to escape. He looked normal. Even though he was one of their children, he had to escape for fear of being killed on sight by them. So since we look normal as the human player that we are, we never have an opportunity to spend time in their little camps and to learn about their culture, to hear them talk with each other. So sadly, we don't really know much more outside of fighting them. So that's all there is to it. When do you think you will have a profile on Deacon? Well, Deacon is interesting. I have been taking notes. For over a year now, I have been taking notes about Deacon, and whenever I find a reference to him, whenever a companion says something, if rolling with him, he says something when we go to an area, I take notes. And I have a long list of notes of strange things Deacon has said to try and build a profile of this guy. It's hard. Pardon me. Is Deacon the Lone Wanderer, says GMI? No, he is the Lone Wanderer. I don't think that Bethesda would do that. Make a character that is yours, completely destroy the character that you played for Fallout 3. I doubt they would do that. Kuma says, if you had a chance to put your likeness into Fallout, what kind of character would you like him to be? Companion, NPC, merchant, radio DJ, vault member, boss type. I'd love to be a radio DJ. If Bethesda wants to contact me to host the next Pip-Boy radio station in the next Fallout, I'm game. Just putting that on the record. Let me know. You've got my number, Bethesda. Go ahead and give me a call. I'll be the next radio DJ. Chaku says, Oxhorn, when are you going to make an Oxhorn radio mod so we can jam while playing? I would like to hear you do some commercials in it also. Oh, well, that's a great idea. I'd have to make it. That's a little more work for me. Maybe someday. I don't know. I got a lot of stuff to do. Okay, getting a lot of complaints that there's lag or bad connection again. And it's almost 8 o'clock my time, and I have got to get to work on a video, so I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast. Thank you all for coming to this week's episode of Scotch and Smoke Rings. Sorry again that I don't have a game today, but I've got a video to make tomorrow, so tune in tomorrow morning for the next episode in Lonesome Road. It is sure to be a great one. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early with a brand new video.